Once you get to 95, it's not quite as easy as it used to be. It's bad enough at 73.
After years of whispers, awkward glances, and royal tension thick enough to cut with a knife, the king has finally broken his silence. But to understand why this moment matters, we need to go back to where the cracks first began to form, when Harry and Meghan made the choice that shook the monarchy and the world.
Buckingham Palace has confirmed that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will not be returning as working members of the royal family. Prince Harry and Meghan stepped down from royal duties last year and moved to the United States.
In January 2020, the world was stunned when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made a move no one saw coming, or at least not in such a public, definitive way. A couple announced they would be stepping back from their roles as senior royals. It wasn't just a personal decision, it was a direct hit to the monarchy's image. Overnight, Megxit became more than a headline. It became a symbol of a deeper issue, one that had been brewing behind the palace gates for years. This wasn't about two people simply wanting privacy. It was about control, freedom, mental health, and maybe most of all, respect. For Harry, the break wasn't just about escaping the press or the royal routine. It was a statement. He had watched history nearly repeat itself, with his wife being dragged through the tabloids just like his mother, Princess Diana. He had lived through that before, and he wasn't going to let it happen again. Emotionally, the move split the royal family. Symbolically, it rocked the institution. Harry wasn't just leaving his duties, he was rejecting the life he was born into. A life built on duty over emotion, appearance over truth. California represented something completely different. Away from the gray skies and stiff formalities of palace life, Harry and Meghan chased a new version of royalty, one with pod pass, Netflix deals, and backyard chickens. Some mocked them, but no one could deny they had made a clean break. Yet stepping away wasn't as simple as just leaving. It was about stepping against something, and that something was the royal system. The same system King Charles had spent his entire life defending.
Hello, so nice to meet you.
Can we try and get back again? Please, just get I was trying to wait for her, now she goes on.
In the face of all the chaos, King Charles, then Prince Charles, chose silence. It wasn't because he had nothing to say. It was because he knew every word mattered. As both a father and a future monarch, Charles was walking a dangerous tightrope. Say too much, and it looks like he's attacking his own son. Say nothing, and it looks like he's ignoring the pain. So he did what royals often do. He let the palace machine speak for him. One of the most interesting moves Charles made was deciding not to strip Harry and Meghan of their titles. Some believed he should have cut them off completely, but Charles knew the risks. Taking away titles would have fueled the narrative that the royal family was punishing Meghan. That would have been a PR nightmare. Instead, he played a longer game. Keep the doors technically open. Keep the optics clean. It was less about fatherhood and more about monarchy management. Then came the bombshells, one after another. First, the Oprah interview. Harry and Meghan sat down and said everything the palace had refused to address, racist remarks from inside the royal family, Meghan's mental health struggles, Harry's fear of history repeating itself. The firm, as they called it, came off cold and distant. Then came Spare, Harry's memoir. In it, he opened up about childhood trauma, his grief over Diana, his icy relationship with Camilla, and the complex emotional distance between him and his father. Harry didn't hold back. He spoke about feeling abandoned when he needed support the most, about being seen as the spare, in contrast to his brother, William, about the lack of empathy he felt when Meghan was at her lowest. It wasn't just a tell-all, it was an emotional purge. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more fractured, another royal figure came into the spotlight, and her presence changed everything.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry, especially. Because I know how much loss he's suffered. But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
From the moment Meghan Markle stepped into the royal spotlight, she became a lightning rod for controversy. Some hailed her as a breath of fresh air, a biracial American actress bringing modern energy to an old institution. Others painted her as a disruptor, unwilling to play by the unspoken rules of royal life. And that divide only grew wider with time. The British media was relentless. Headlines accused Meghan of breaking royal protocol, of being difficult behind the scenes, of creating rifts between brothers. Even small decisions were twisted into scandals. Meghan quickly became the villain in a story where the royal family was cast as the wronged party. But her supporters saw something else. They saw a woman under immense pressure, facing racism and classism, trying to carve out space for herself in a rigid world. They pointed to the contrast between how Meghan and Kate Middleton were treated by the press. The same actions, like holding a baby bump or eating avocado toast, were praised when Kate did them, but ridiculed when Meghan did. It wasn't just media spin, it was a cultural clash. Meghan came from a background where openness, personal boundaries, and emotional expression were valued. The royal world, by contrast, runs on duty, discretion, and tradition. That difference in approach created tension from the start. Her personal style was also different. She chose simpler fashion, spoke candidly in interviews, and didn't hide her frustration. And where past royals had mostly stayed silent, Meghan spoke out, especially about mental health, race, and identity. To some, that made her powerful. To others, it made her a threat. So the question remains, was Meghan the catalyst who accelerated a long overdue conversation about race, monarchy, and media? Or was she the scapegoat for a family that wasn't ready for change? While the media storm raged on, the personal rift between Harry and his father deepened. Communication between them grew rare. Sources described long stretches without phone calls, messages that went unanswered even when Harry returned to the UK, like during Prince Philip's funeral. Interactions with Charles were minimal and stiff. The emotional toll was heavy. Harry had once been close to his father. He had described him as someone who understood his pain after Diana's death. But now there was silence where there used to be support. That silence extended to the next generation. Archie and Lilibet, Harry and Meghan's children have spent very little time with their grandfather. For a royal family that prides itself on image and unity, the distance was obvious. There were reports of tension over whether the children would receive royal titles. Questions about security were also a sticking point. Harry wanted protection for his family, but the palace drew firm lines on what he was entitled to as a non-working royal. Finances played a role too. After stepping back, Harry claimed he was cut off financially. The palace countered that they had supported him through a transition, but the damage was already done. The emotional weight of it all, the loss of connection, the coldness, the transactional tone, only made the rift more painful. And yet, even as everything seemed to be unraveling, the royal titles remained. The palace stayed silent until now. After years of tight-lipped restraint, King Charles finally addressed the situation with his youngest son. The words were carefully chosen. He didn't name names or assign blame, but the message was there. He acknowledged the pain of recent years, the family difficulties, the need for reconciliation, and perhaps most strikingly, he emphasized his love for both of his sons. It wasn't a dramatic speech. It wasn't dripping with emotion, but it was more than anyone had heard from him directly on the matter. The tone was measured. Some called it diplomatic. Others said it was distant, too little, too late. But still, it was a shift. For the first time, the king wasn't just managing the fallout, he was speaking to it.
There was an interesting sounding meeting, wasn't there, that took place at Buckingham Palace yesterday that could potentially see more change to the Harry situation.
Now that the silence is finally broken, the question hanging over everyone is simple but heavy. Where do they go from here? The path forward isn't easy for King Charles, for Harry and Meghan, or for the monarchy itself. On one hand, a reconciliation could mean a fresh start. It could bring healing to a family that's been splintered for years. There's still time for Charles to be a present grandfather, to mend broken trust with Harry, and to show the world that even the most rigid traditions can make space for forgiveness. For Harry, who has spoken openly about wanting accountability but not revenge, reconciliation would bring peace that goes deeper than any media headline, but to get there, a lot would have to change. First, there's trust, and that's fragile. Harry has aired personal pain publicly through interviews, his memoir, and global platforms. He's accused unnamed royals of racism, said his family failed to protect Meghan, and described feeling abandoned after his mother's death. Those words cut deep, and even though some supported his openness, others in the family saw it as betrayal. For reconciliation to happen, both sides would have to stop seeing each other as threats. That's hard when every meeting could end up in the press, when every private word is weighed, quoted, and judged. Trust can't grow in a spotlight, it needs space. Then there's the issue of the monarchy itself. King Charles isn't just a father. He's a symbol. Every move he makes is about more than emotion, it's about legacy. And that legacy is complicated. He came to the throne at a time when the public is questioning the future of the monarchy. People want relevance, not just rituals. They want connection, not cold formality. So Charles has to balance modernizing the crown while protecting its image. Being too soft on Harry could make him look weak. Being too harsh could make him seem cold. It's a tightrope. Public opinion matters more than ever. Some people feel sympathy for Harry and Meghan, seeing them as victims of an outdated system. Others believe they walked away from their duty and shouldn't expect to have it both ways. These conflicting views shape everything, from how the palace responds to how history will remember this chapter. And for Meghan, the road back to royal life, if it even exists, would be the hardest. The British press hasn't let up. Public trust remains split, and the palace doesn't forget easily. It's more likely she and Harry will continue building their life in the US, focusing on their foundation, media projects, and personal growth, rather than rejoining the royal inner circle. Still, reconciliation doesn't have to mean returning to the royal fold. It could just mean peace. No public spats, no cold shoulders. Just a father and son who choose to move on, even from a distance. Because in the end, this isn't just about a father and his son. It's about a crown, a country, and the family drama that refuses to be silenced. Do you think King Charles is being wise or cold? And can this royal family ever be whole again? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real, honest takes.